Hello, college football fans. Welcome back to the newest college football podcast, Saturdays over Sunday. I'm your co-host, Ben Gorowitz. I'm with my partner, Max Greenberg. Today's date is October 5th. Happy Friday. Let's get this thing going.
All right, thank you, Ben. Today, I think we should talk about these top four teams. Let's analyze those and talk about those a little bit. We obviously know the top four is Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, and Clemson. Each team, yes, it's week 6, but we still are learning a lot about these teams and where they are and what they may be by the end of the season. Let's start off at the top with Alabama. We all know, yes, they're great, and they're doing all this crazy offensive numbers, number 1 in the country in offensive efficiency, number 2 in the country in defensive efficiency. So, yes, they check off all those boxes. But it sounds bad, but they haven't played 4 quarters. So we really don't know what they can do for 4 quarters. I mean, I fully expect with that offense and defense on the field, if they could play to their standard for 4 quarters, who knows what could happen, but we have yet to see it.
Yeah, I expect no fault for the game that Alabama actually has to play their starters for all 4 quarters. It's just we haven't seen it yet. Alabama's going to play Alabama football, but like you said, Tua hasn't thrown a pass in the 4th quarter yet.
Not even a single pass.
So when they finally play a game, close game, second half, we'll see. We'll have to see how Alabama reacts, but you and I expect Alabama to play Alabama football.
I mean, it's not like they've never been there before. It's just this year is a little different with Saban having an offense for once.
Yeah, number 2, Georgia. One of the weaknesses we've noticed the past couple weeks is they get off to very slow starts. Jake Fromm has had quiet first halves in back-to-back weeks against Missouri and Tennessee, and as SEC and conference play get further into the season, the opponents will start to get better. They got LSU coming up. They'll have Florida later on in the year. Those are great defenses. Those are good teams.
Auburn
as well. Jake Fromm and the Dogs offense won't be able to. They can't get behind when they play LSU, Florida, Auburn.
No, they can't. And with SEC football, like we said, October football, it's in the trenches. And what you do is you establish your run early, and Georgia has not been able to do that. And, yes, they throw the ball very well, but at the end of the day, they are a run-the-ball first team.
Yeah, they got a big offensive line, the ground and pound style, let Jake Fromm be the great game manager that he is, great in play action. He reads and disguises defenses very well. But his style of play, Georgia does not want him to throw the ball 35, 40, 50 times a game. That's not his style. That's not Georgia football. But if they're going to get down early, they're going to have to play in a catch-up role, and that's where Georgia might get in trouble this year.
We don't know. They can. We just don't know yet. They can come back. Who knows? But it's yet to be proven, and in order to not fall behind is get off quickly.
Kentucky.
Of course, yeah. And they got a big one this weekend.
I think it's in Lexington this year, so.
All right, moving on. Ohio State out of the Big Ten, number 3 in the country. The only thing that I see from Ohio State is, yes, they put up a lot of points pretty efficiently, but they do let up a lot of points. They can only do so much when it comes to putting up points. Like they put up 77 maybe in the second week. I mean, it was against nobody, but they also let up 45.
Yeah, they've put up big numbers against every opponent this year, except for last week, Penn State, which was the toughest game that they've played all year, if not the biggest matchup we've seen in college football this year. And they won the game. They still put up 27 points in that tough environment. I'm looking at their schedule now. There's no one threatening to Ohio State. They should run the table. Their biggest games left, I would say, are at Michigan State, and then they get Michigan in Ohio State this year. Those teams don't have the talent that can match up with Ohio State. This schedule, they've already gotten through. They played at TCU. They played at Penn State. They weathered the storm. They won both those games.
Yeah, that's just like going off your point. They just have talent. They're never not going to have talent. And so offensively, I feel like they're always going to be there. But,
I don't think their defensive woes, giving up a lot of points, is going to affect them for the rest of the year. I think, maybe at Michigan State, but probably not.
Right. I'm not saying they're going to lose because of that, but if there's anything that you could see with the eye test that you could work on, that would be it.
Number 4, Clemson. We've talked about them a little bit in the show. We've talked about Kelly Bryant is now not there. Trevor Lawrence got a little banged up last week. He should be okay. Coming up, Clemson's got a lot of star power. We've talked about their defensive line all year. They have a lot of weapons on offense as well. They have one of the best coaches, one of the best home atmospheres. They have a lot going for them.
Right. I when I look at Clemson, I agree with all that. The talent's there, the positions are there, the coaching's there. But for some reason, and it's not just this year, it's just like some random weird inconsistencies that they have. They randomly go into stalls when it's on the field, offensively and defensively. They'll just go a few drives, all of a sudden just nothing's happening. Or they can go on and just rattle up those points like you've seen them do.
Yeah, their schedule, just like Ohio State, it's not that threatening for the rest of the year. They get at Wake Forest this week, which we'll talk about a little bit later. NC State, but that's at home. Florida State, Louisville, they got nothing on Clemson, as we've seen. At Boston College could be tough. Probably not for Clemson. And then Duke and South Carolina. Clemson should run the table, just like we just said about Ohio State. It's just they got to be a little bit more consistent. Their defense is always going to be there.
Absolutely, yeah. And it just looks like a Clemson this year and these past few years is just win and you're in.
Yeah, but, I mean, another point is Trevor Lawrence can't get hurt. I mean, listen, Chase Bryce, who was the fourth-string quarterback to start the year, played well. He won the game against Syracuse, which was a tough opponent. I mean, how many teams can you name that have a fourth-string quarterback that can come back, because they were losing when he came in, can come back and win again? There's not many in the country.
No, there's not, and it was impressive to watch that happen.
Credit to Chase Bryce, credit to Dabo and his team, but Trevor Lawrence has got to stay healthy. Dabo knows it. Every Clemson fan knows it, for them to have a special season.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I know it's a little early, but after all, I do think those are the four best teams in the country, without a doubt.
Yeah, there's some separation after that.
Yeah, and it's each team has a flaw. Each team 1 through 4. I mean, I think that you could look at these four teams and honestly, maybe could make an argument for another team to be number one, but overall, I think Alabama's number one. But 2, 3, and 4, I feel like all three of those teams could be anyone in those top four, but they are in those top four.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Alabama hasn't had that tough of a schedule so far. Their one big game on paper was Texas A&M, and it was here in Tuscaloosa. But you still have to show out.
Absolutely.
You know, Clemson, we've talked about it, Trevor Lawrence got hurt. I understand that. But they're way more talented than Syracuse, even though Syracuse was 4-0. You still have to show up in games like this.
Right.
You know, Alabama has done its job so far, and as the season goes on, they'll have to continue their dominance on both sides of the ball, and we're going to find out if they can do it. You know, this week they don't have as tough as a matchup as they will later on. They're playing at Arkansas this week, but you still have to show up. Arkansas is still a tough place to play. It's still an SEC team.
Right. And the SEC West is downright scary at the end of the day. It doesn't even matter. I mean, yes, the Arkansas, if you had to put a ranking on them, would be the last team in the SEC West. But like we said, it's October football. The gauntlet's coming up. This conference play is really starting to heat up. Like I said, Georgia has 4 games in a row of just something that is absolutely just brutal.
Yeah, Georgia's got a tough schedule coming up. We're going to find out if the Dogs can play with a little bit more consistency. We think they should. Georgia's got a huge offensive line. They got great running backs, a very talented quarterback, talented defense. They have everything on paper.
Right, listen to this. This week versus Vanderbilt, but after that, they go on the road to number 5 LSU.
That's tough.
Take a bye. Then they have Florida.
Tough. It's a rivalry game.
World's largest cocktail party down in Jacksonville. Then they go to Kentucky.
Kentucky's played well so far.
Right, yeah, and Kentucky has a huge game this weekend on the road at A&M, and if they can somehow win that, I know that game is far away, that will have a lot of anticipation. And then after that, they've got Auburn.
Yeah, and then that's one of their biggest rivals. Yeah, like I said, Georgia, we're going to find out if they're for real or not. I mean, I think they're for real. They are really talented. They got a great defense. They have great balance on offense. It's just we need to see a little bit more consistency from Jake Fromm, or even if Justin Fields is playing.
Right, and he's been playing more.
Yeah, he gets reps each and every week. But as you start to play these better defenses, I mean, like you just said, LSU's defense is no joke. Florida's defense is no joke. We'll touch on that. Kentucky, they are not the laughingstock of the SEC anymore.
No, they're on a mission.
And Auburn, they always are talented, especially on the defensive side.
Right, and let's go back to the LSU game. That is at LSU. And we don't know when that game will be, but if that game's at night, Georgia into LSU, assuming rankings stay the same, a 2 versus 5 matchup in Baton Rouge, wow.
I think it actually, I think it's already been said. I think it's
Oh, is it the
I think it's
3:30?
gonna be the 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 Eastern Time. But still,
Regardless, Death Valley.
regardless, it's the toughest place to play, or one of the toughest places to play.
Absolutely. And then branching off of that with LSU, they have Georgia at home and Alabama at home. So LSU sitting in a great spot, obviously, with number.
Yeah, they're in the
5.
driver's seat for their
Absolutely,
season.
they're
right
in the
now.
driver's seat for their season. The SEC West is up for grabs if they can just win their games.
Yeah, LSU's got to get through this
And
week. They're
they've
playing
got-
in the swamp.
Absolutely, and they've got some after this week. They got some favorable matchups, like I just said. Like not the matchups. They are home for those big matchups, which can, of course, like we just said, really change everything.
Speaking of those matchups, let's get into our favorite part of the show. You ready to pick some games?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right, as we always do, let's start with the top 5. Then we'll bring you the top matchups of the week. Number 1, Alabama is going down to Arkansas. That is a 12 start Eastern Time, 11 Central Time. Saban has already said this is what he calls a trap game, so that's what we're going to call it if that's what Saban calls it. This is no trap game. I expect Alabama to dominate from the coin toss.
Right. I don't see any reason at all Alabama would struggle in this game. I mean, Arkansas is on a 4-game losing streak. Their only win coming on the first game of the season against Eastern Illinois, and they have lost back-to-back on the road, though, in the SEC at Auburn and A&M. But the one game that really sticks out to me in this matchup is North Texas went to Arkansas this year on week 3 and beat them 44-17
It's a lot of points against the North Texas team they gave up.
in Arkansas. Now, this Bama team coming in, averaging well over 50 points a game with one of the most prolific offenses we've seen and a nasty Bama defense.
I expect a lot of points.
And there is history in this game that always, it's like a weird little trap game. Maybe that's why Saban is calling it that. But I see absolutely nothing. I'm going to take Bama. I'm going to take them big.
Yeah, I also had Bama and I have him big. Let's move on. Vandy is going at number 2 Georgia. That's a 7:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 Central Time start. It's an SEC game, SEC East game. I don't expect. I expect the Dogs to take care of business. I think that they're gonna. They need to get off to a better start for sure. You don't want to let teams like Vandy hang around. They never really pulled away from Tennessee last week. Tennessee scored a late touchdown, made it, kind of close, but Georgia was always going to win that game.
Right,
I expect Georgia. I picked the Dogs.
Right, I'm going to go with Georgia, too. Kirby Smart coming off that week. Last week, Tennessee at home. Didn't play all that great. He's back at home again against an SEC foe. I think he's going to try to fix those kinks with the offense and obviously make a statement. Get back into the national picture because there have been some reports or articles out this week because of the way Georgia played. Are they a real contender? Are they? I do believe that. I'm sold on them, but I do think that this week is a big week for them. It is not a great matchup for them, but I do think Georgia wins big, and they fix these offensive kinks. All right, next, Indiana traveling to Ohio State. I think this is pretty similar to the 2 games we just picked. Not much going on here.
Yeah, I mean, Indiana's 4-1, but they're going at Ohio State. It's a tough place to play. Ohio State's a 25-point favorite. It's a 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock Eastern Time kickoff. Ohio State is going to continue their offensive dominance in this game. I just want to see more consistency on the defensive end.
Right, this game's just about the defense.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Urban Meyer's going to get better and better each week.
Absolutely.
He's a top 3 coach in college football, in my opinion. I'm taking Ohio State in this game.
I am too. I don't see any problem here.
I don't even see Dwayne Haskins playing
No.
much in the fourth quarter.
And
It's one of those.
Yeah, they're just gonna watch this defense, try to fix whatever they can, and move on. Try to keep on pace after this crazy season Ohio State's already had.
Next up, number 4, Clemson. Trevor Lawrence should be coming back. They're going at Wake Forest, who's 3-2 in the year. That's a 2:30 Central Time, 3:30 kickoff Eastern Time. Clemson's a 20-point favorite on the road.
Trevor Lawrence has been practicing.
Trevor Lawrence is
Monday.
going to play.
Since Monday, he will be playing, and I think that I know what happened last week was just because of injury, and I truly believe that was just because of injury. Because that defense, yes, they stepped up honestly because they had to come back, so that defense had to step in and play for Trevor Lawrence, and I think that it wasn't even like I don't think it was as big of a story as everyone thought. He got hurt and they played bad because he is the starting quarterback. So I think he comes back, everything goes right back on the track, and they get a big win.
Yeah, I'm taking Clemson in this game as well. They're just going to have too much for Wake Forest. Not much to talk about. Let's move on. Let's do Maryland at Michigan. That's a noon kickoff Eastern Time.
Michigan is
They're number 15 right now.
They've been playing well. They've been putting up points. That's the one thing I think is shocking people this year.
Yeah, I mean, the past couple weeks they've put up some big numbers, but they haven't played much talent.
No, but it is something that this offseason everyone was begging Harbaugh to finally implant, and we don't know if it's working like you just said, but good numbers against bad teams is a lot better than no numbers against bad teams.
No, for sure, you're right. And listen, Maryland's 3-1. They don't forget they won at Texas, which maybe Texas is definitely better now than they were at
absolutely,
Maryland.
Absolutely.
But I mean, don't count Maryland out of this game. It's a 17.5. That's the line for Michigan. I'm going to take the under in that game. I think Maryland keeps it close. But I am choosing Michigan to win the game.
I'm going to take Michigan. I don't know if they'll cover, but I do think Michigan will win by at least a touchdown and a few points.
All right, well, line's 17.5, so that wouldn't cover.
No, not
just the touchdown.
No, do not think they're going to cover.
Let's go. Let's do Florida State at Miami.
Rivalry.
In a rivalry game. That's a 3:30 kickoff. Big ACC matchup.
Miami's ranked 17.
Yeah, Florida. I mean, listen, Florida State hasn't looked good all year. Their offensive line still can't block. I mean, listen, my take on DeAndre Francois, I think he's talented. I've talked to some people, where they don't think they see the talent as much. Listen, I can't fault the quarterback if his offensive line can't block for him. If you have no time, I don't expect you to do much. And Miami always has a good defensive line. I expect Francois to have a rough day.
Oh, right, yeah. Miami's going to put pressure on them, but
I expect the turnover chain to be brought out.
Absolutely.
At least once. I'm going to say probably twice. I expect Mark Richt and Miami to keep their roll going.
Right, I wouldn't mind pushing that number even more. DeAndre Francois is known to turn the ball over a lot.
Yeah, I mean, he's,
I
said, I think Miami's going to pressure him a lot. I think they're going to make him throw it with people in his face.
Right. On the other side, though, Florida State, yes, it's been a mess this year. But last week, they had a comeback win on the road at Louisville, a conference win. That is a positive. I'm not sure what that'll lead to, but it is a positive that they can think about. Florida State, like I said, they turn the ball over a lot. They just look like nothing's in sync. But I do think, I'm going to agree with you, Miami will put pressure on them. They're going to get turnovers. Miami's going to win the game. They're at home. Big rivalry win.
Yeah, I'm picking Miami. I think if you're Willie Taggart right now, I think you need to start focusing on recruiting offensive linemen for the next year and the year after that. They have talent. Florida State will always have talent because of the name that Florida State is, the brand that they give out.
Mm-hmm.
But their offensive line, they are not playing well together. I don't know if they're not in sync. I'm not blaming Willie Taggart, but I mean, we're in week 6. Florida State should be able to block by now.
Right, and that was this wasn't. I mean, he's a new coach, but it wasn't like a coach that came in a month before the season. He was hired early, right after Jimbo was gone. I think it was already planned, and I don't know what's missing. But I mean, last week was a good sign. We'll see what they can do, but I'm gonna take Miami. All right, next on, we're gonna move on to a top 25 matchup in Notre Dame takes on Virginia Tech.
It's in Blacksburg too.
6 Notre Dame, 24 Virginia Tech in Blacksburg at night, ABC, prime time.
Yeah,
that's a tough place to play.
Yeah, it's one of the loudest places in the country.
Kirk Herbstreit came out today and this week and actually said that people don't talk about it, but he may put that in the top 3 hardest places to play in the entire country.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've talked to a buddy of mine that goes to Clemson that's been there. The place shakes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they can cause some earthquake noise. I mean, listen, we talked about it last week. Josh Jackson, the starting quarterback for Virginia Tech, will not be coming back. He's not going to be playing in this game. Notre Dame is undefeated coming in.
Great defense.
Notre Dame looks for real this year. I have not said that about Notre Dame in a while.
A long time. And looking at their schedule now, they're 6-0 or 5-0, looking to get to be 6-0. If they can get over this Virginia Tech team, they have Pittsburgh at home, got a bye. At Navy, at Northwestern, versus Florida State, versus Syracuse, at USC.
Yeah, I mean, after this, the only real challenge left will be at USC.
Right, and you never know where they can slip. I mean, Syracuse, you never know with them. But, I mean, other than that, I could maybe one loss if they get past this, which would be huge.
Who you got in this game?
I'm gonna take Notre Dame. They're favored by 6.5 on the road as of right now. Over/under set up at 55.5. I'm gonna take Notre Dame strictly because of their defense and because of coaching. I know that environment's tough, like we said, but I do think Notre Dame will come out at the end, play well, and do what they've been doing because they look good.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's their backup quarterback in his first start last week played pretty well. The crowd is going to help them. Bud Foster, who's been there forever as the defensive coordinator, he's going to try and confuse Notre Dame up a little bit. I think Notre Dame's got too much balance on offense right now. I think they get a big road victory. I think Notre Dame stays undefeated. And I think they get a big-time win. So I am also going with Notre Dame.
Okay.
Next up, we're going to go down in the SEC. Big matchup. Kentucky, who's number 13 in the country, 5-0, is going to Aggieland, who's Jimbo's 3-2 right now. It's a 7 o'clock Eastern time kickoff.
Another very tough place to play.
Yeah, that's tough. It gets loud there.
Absolutely. One of the biggest stadiums, maybe one of the biggest stadiums in the SEC.
It's one of the biggest in the country.
105,000.
Kentucky, I'm going to give them credit. I bashed them in the past. I still think the only thing you have to do is stop Benny Snell.
I agree.
He's their main weapon. Now, listen, he is unbelievable. He's putting up unbelievable numbers. Benny Snell, credit to you.
He's at 8 touchdowns in 5 games and scored all 4 against Mississippi State when he came on the road to Kentucky. He scored all 4 of those touchdowns, won 28-7.
Yeah, 3-2, don't get confused by that. I think what Jimbo's doing, they're taking big strides. I think Jimbo's doing a pretty good job in A&M.
Right. I mean, they had Clemson. That's a loss that,
Yeah, I wasn't expecting them to win. Their 2 losses and they could have won that game.
Their 2 losses were against the top 2 teams in the country at the time. At the time, Clemson was 2, and their other loss was on the road at 1 Alabama.
Yeah, listen. This is my I'm going against Kentucky again. I'm picking A&M in this game. I think the home crowd. I think Kellen Mond is underrated a little bit. I think he's very good. I think him and Jimbo are getting on the same page each week. Jimbo Fisher is a great quarterback coach. I'm picking the Aggies in this one at home.
Yeah, they're favored by 5.5, which
the Aggies are.
Yeah, they that's a lot being at home with this kind of matchup. I don't know if it's more respect for being at home or disrespect towards Kentucky. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you get a little points for being at home.
Yeah, you get 3. So really, realistically, it's 2.5 A&M, which is still a favor. But I am going to take Texas A&M this game. I'm going to finally pick against Kentucky, see what happens. But I think A&M rolls and wins this game.
Another huge SEC matchup. Number 5 LSU is going at number 22 Florida. That's the 3:30 CBS game Eastern time, 2:30 Central time. I've thought about this a lot.
This is a big game.
I'm going to break this down a little bit.
Let's break it down.
But before I get into that, let's talk a little bit about the Les Miles Steve Spurrier bet.
I'm glad you brought it up.
It's hilarious. I like when old coaches, old players do this kind of stuff. If you don't know the bet, Les Miles, the former LSU coach, is betting Steve Spurrier, the famous Gators coach who also has a role with the Gators now.
Yes.
The bet is that if LSU wins, Steve Spurrier has to eat some grass.
Which, if you don't know, the story is Les Miles was known to pick up grass in stressful times during games and eat it.
Yeah, and if Florida wins, Les Miles has to wear the Steve Spurrier old ball coach famous visor.
That's his
It's a
trademark.
great bet. I think it's very friendly. I
love it. I think it's cool.
Yeah.
This is a rivalry that is in the SEC that people know, but I don't think people realize that Florida considers LSU maybe one of their top 2 rivals.
Yeah, them in Georgia.
And
They have Florida State, but
they
not
have
in the
Florida
SEC.
State, Georgia, and LSU. But realistically, if you ask their fan base, LSU is not okay with Florida.
Listen, I'm going to go through my keys to the game here. I have 3 or 4 for each team. I'm going to start with LSU. LSU needs to get off to a good start in this game, and I think that they need to get Joe Burrow in a rhythm. He's a first-year starter, and he's never played in a place like Florida. The Swamp can get ridiculously loud. They will be loud for this game.
I can tell you right now, this fan base is ready.
Yeah, my second key for LSU is I think they need to play old-school LSU football, which to me that means play physical, and I think they need to dominate the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball.
What I like to call these is just an old-school SEC football game.
Yeah, this is battle in the trenches. That's been going on for decades in the
These
SEC.
games is where the players will feel it for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and I think my third big key for LSU is Joe Burrow needs to limit some mistakes. He has 0 interceptions on the year right now, so I think in situations where if he has to get out of the pocket a little bit, he's not much of a scrambler.
Right.
So I think he needs to throw the ball away in situations instead of trying to force it.
Right, and that's an unbelievable stat, and I don't care who you are, though, you're going to turn the ball over eventually.
Yeah, at some point you will. But listen, he's going up against one of the best, if not the best, pass defense in the country in Florida. So I think he needs to be smart with the ball. I think they need to get him in rhythm early. I think those are the keys for LSU to win. For the other side, Florida needs to play off the crowd. They need to play off the defense. They need to get to Joe Burrow, get him out of the pocket, win the turnover battle. And most importantly for Florida, in the red zone, get creative. Get 7, not 3. You will not win this game kicking field goals. I can promise you
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Going off of the other side with Florida, their defense is always there. Like you said, the pass defense is fantastic, one of the best in the country. But watching them over the last few weeks, this whole year pretty much, they're 4-1. Their defense is getting better every single week. And what they like to do is put major pressure on the quarterback. Their 2 defensive ends are playing outstanding right now. And I think with Joe Burrow, hasn't faced anything like that. They thought they would face it against Miami, but they didn't. I think that Florida, offensively, like you said, get creative in the red zone. I think that's a huge point because last week when they went on the road at Mississippi State, Dan Mullen's return, their first touchdown of the game was a double pass.
Yeah, Dan Mullen can get pretty creative on offense.
And he's not scared to do things.
I'm picking the Gators in this game. I think at home is really going to help Dan Mullen's squad. I think they need to put Felipe Franks in situations where he can succeed, but also get creative in the red zone. I think Dan Mullen's the perfect coach to figure that out. He's got a great offensive mind. I'm picking the Gators.
Exactly. There's a lot of differences the key in this game, but at the end of the day, honestly, is just for both teams, just be comfortable.
Play who you are.
Exactly. LSU's going on the road in this environment, but Florida also is in the environment at the end of the day. Like, people always talk about that. They're going to be in that environment too, positive or negative.
Who you got?
LSU, favored by 2.5. I'm going to take Florida.
Okay.
This game also is SEC Nation, so they will be down there just to amp it up even more. And I know that before this game, just to get the crowd into it more, they are introducing and inducting Tim Tebow into the Ring of Honor. They're also introducing the 2008 National Championship team. So, yes, this fan base will be ready. It's going to be loud. Middle of the day. I'm going to take the Gators. Close.
The next matchup is the last matchup we're going to talk about is College Game Day. It's number 19 Texas playing number 7 Oklahoma. Of course, if you don't know, the Red River rivalry.
It's a big one.
It's in Dallas every single year in the old Cotton Bowl. This is a big matchup. I'm not. I didn't grow up the biggest Texas fan, as most people know. But I've always liked Texas football.
I think the country, it's one of those things where, like, the country's better when certain programs are good. Like, Texas football. Like, everyone knows Texas football.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're good, I think it just makes sense. But Tom Herman, let's see what they can do. They're on the rise. This is a huge, huge matchup.
They've won 4 in a row. They lost to Maryland, and now they're on a roll.
Exactly. Like I was about to say, they lost first game of the year to Maryland. But they're on a roll, 4-0. Playing well, not just winning. Like, they look like they're playing very well.
Yeah, this is the second game that I'm going to break down a little bit. I want you to add on to it. I want everyone to listen to this. In the last 8 meetings of this rivalry, Oklahoma has won 6 out of the last 8. Now, to dive in deeper with that, Texas hasn't had a big time quarterback since Colt McCoy.
That was back in 2009.
They tried his little brother, Case, didn't work. They have 2 quarterbacks now. They only play 1. Ellinger plays now. They were big time recruits. But can they get it done? Last year, Ellinger played as a true freshman in this game against Baker Mayfield, the Heisman winner, the best quarterback in the country last year. And Oklahoma only won 29-24. Now, Oklahoma ran the ball 40 attempts in last year's game. They're not doing that this year because they can't.
No, they can't.
We've mentioned before that Rodney Anderson, their star running back, is not playing this year. My keys to the game, Oklahoma's got to figure out a way to run the ball without Kyler Murray.
Absolutely.
They got to get some balance. My second key to the game is who can dial up some blitzes, but you got to contain the quarterbacks. Because if you let Kyler Murray out of the pocket, let him do his thing, what he does best, Texas is going to have a long day on defense.
Couldn't agree more. If you look at this game and you really just look at it on paper, or if you kind of just eyeball it, you're going to be like, oh, it's Oklahoma's offense versus Texas offense. But at the end of the day, I think because of that, the defensive playbook is way more important for this game overall for both teams.
Yeah, listen, it's the Big 12. Are we going to see defense in this game?
See, that's what I'm saying, because we could expect Kyler Murray to put up 78, no problem. But also I could see them, you never know with them.
Yeah, listen, for the people that, if you don't follow college football as intensely, as closely as we do, Texas had a huge recruiting class on the defensive side of the ball this past year. They brought in the number 1, number 2 safety and also brought in a top corner in the country.
Right. They quietly have had top recruiting classes the last few years.
Yeah, Todd Orlando, the defensive coordinator. Texas plays off that defense. So the biggest matchup of the game is, can their highly talented defense stop Lincoln Riley's high-powered and creative offense? You know, there's times where Oklahoma lines up with 5 receivers, no running backs. You know they're throwing the football, and they still throw the ball down the field for 15-plus yards. That's
and
how
somehow
good
they're
they are.
wide open.
Yeah, that's how good. I mean, that's how good they are. So, listen, a lot of big matchups in this game. Who you got in this one?
I'm going to take Oklahoma just because of the offense, and I think that in these games, yes, it's a rivalry and it may stay close, but I think at the end of the day, there's going to be like these kind of games have that one little roll, one little drive, one little play that just ends it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, the Oklahoma, like you said, the line is 7, so they think Oklahoma's going to win by a touchdown. I like where Texas football is at right now. I think they're making strides in the right direction. I'm taking Oklahoma, and I'm taking the over in this game. In the Big 12, if you're undecided about a game, always go with who's better on offense. Because this division, this conference, is not known for defense.
Absolutely.
I'm picking Oklahoma for that reason. I think they get it done. I think it's fairly close, but I'm taking the over. I think Oklahoma wins by more than a touchdown. I think they stay undefeated. But I think Texas, you know, I like where Tom Herman's going with this program.
I do too, and I think they're on the way back, but everyone has that saying, is Texas football back?
Yeah, they're not back yet,
No.
but, you know, they're making good strides.
We may never know because that question will always be asked.
Yeah. A lot of good matchups this week in college football. We broke down 2 of the big games. We picked all of them for you. Enjoy college football this week. It only gets better and better. That's how college football works. I wish it would slow down. It's flying by. Thank you for listening to Saturdays Over Sunday. Have a great Saturday, everyone.